we as Bahamians don't know what it means to be Bahamian, anyone or anything that comes along and asks us to change or conform or do this or do that, we would just do it.
Welcome to Pushing Your Peers Podcast, the number one podcast in the region for living a progressive and happier life. On this episode, we chat with Kaché Knowles, founder of Is A Bahamian Bey, a brand on a mission to celebrate and preserve Bahamian culture. She shares her journey of self-discovery, the importance of knowing your why, and how young creatives can make a real impact by staying authentic and serving their communities. Sit back, relax, and let's get ready to push some peas. Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Kaché Knowles to Pushing Your Peers Podcast. I have been following Kaché for quite some time. I fell in love with this brand many years ago, and I've been watching from the quotes you post to the clothing. Like, I just love how you're promoting the Bahamian culture. And I think given that this month is your independence.
Yeah, July.
July, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Coming up. So I think it'll be a great time to talk about what inspired you to launch this brand and this platform.
So it's a pretty long story, but for the sake of time, I've always loved Bahamian culture and just being Bahamian in general. I feel like Bahamians are very, very proud people. Like, everything we do is for like the ability to wave a flag in the air and be like, Isa Bahamian.
Yeah.
So I've had that, that goal of wanting to do something that contributes to the Bahamas in some way, shape, and form my entire life. I have a very strong accent, which is a little bit like, it's covered now, obviously, because, sometimes it's, code switch or whatever. But so I always had a very strong accent, always loved talking Bahamian. And basically in 2019, I wanted to share Bahamian culture in very small, easy, digestible, educational doses. And so I created the Isa Bahamian Bay page and was just like, I want to post a different Bahamian word or phrase once a day. So I posted a different Bahamian word in like a very like fun, colorful graphic for 2 years, every single day. And that just I think that was Bahamian's first time seeing and meeting Bahamian culture in that manner. And realizing that this is an art, like this is something that is shareable. This is something that creates a lot of stories. This is something that you can educate people who are not Bahamian about it. And then also too, this is something that words and phrases that are shared among the whole Caribbean. Yeah. So I have a lot of times when I share like different words and phrases, like somebody from Trinidad, somebody from Barbados would comment and be like, oh, we say this too, but we spell it different,
Yeah.
So from that, people asked for the graphics because I created the graphics in a very fun way. They wanted the graphics to basically be posted or printed on shirts. And so I grew up in retail with my grandmother. Like, she always had a souvenir store. So transitioning into clothing, into merchandise was like very easy. So within, I think, like the third month of me starting, like, this was really just meant to be a hobby. I had my first set of like, I think 100 shirts.
Wow.
Sold out. I was just like, okay, that's cool. And then really just been doing that ever since. Was just like, okay, like, I have my collections throughout the year. My content is a big part of like why Isa Bahamian Bay is so important, because I create content that like is educational but also very entertaining. So yeah, it's been, I think this year will make 6 years.
No, it's amazing. Like I said, I've been following it, and I love the fun nature of it. The graphics, it draws you in, and it makes you want to see what's gonna be next.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, why did you feel like it was important for you to take on this initiative of getting the Bohemian dialect to be something that was popular on social media?
Right. So I don't necessarily feel like I took it on. Like I was just like, I'm gonna do this thing. It really just happened and unfolded accidentally. Like I really had a different career trajectory that I was pursuing, and this was just supposed to be my creative outlet where I was just gonna post Bahamian words. I've always loved Bahamian language. I've always loved Bahamian dialect. And then also too, like I grew up as a child having a very strong accent and always being corrected for it, being like, it's not I girl, it's like going to you can't say, like, like different
Right.
things, like you would be corrected for the way you spoke. So that was sort of my personal, struggle, but also too, like me posting different Bahamian words was empowering myself. So, like in retrospect, I is a Bahamian Bay. Like that's me exclaiming it for myself and like honoring my childhood self that probably didn't get to express myself the way that I wanted to, or wasn't encouraged to express myself the way that I would have liked. And just being like, like there's a place for our language. It's a beautiful language, as is all languages. Like, you know, let's celebrate it as opposed to like saying that there's something wrong with it.
Definitely. Why is it important for us, or well, I'm a Turks Island though, but why
Hmm.
is it important for Bahamians to own their identity?
Hmm. That's such a loaded question. Why is it important? It's because it's who he is. I feel like it's such a loaded question. Why is it important for us to own our identity? Because like that's who we are. So I feel like if we can't understand our identity and stand in our identity, then we will conform and change for anyone that comes along. So I feel like it's a matter of if we as Bahamians don't know what it means to be Bahamian, anyone or anything that comes along and asks us to change or conform or do this or do that, we would just do it. So I think it's a matter of realizing like who you are. The place that you're from is such a beautiful place. The people are such brilliant, fun, charismatic people, and like knowing the value in that, so that anything or any entity, any person that comes along can't misvalue what it means to be Bahamian.
You know,
I feel like that's like the short form.
I asked, yes, thank you. I asked that question because in the Turkish Islands, we have a unique situation. Well, I'm not sure if it's unique throughout the region, but we are a minority population. Um,
Mhm.
and so I know why something like this would be great here.
Mhm.
We can wear our phrases on our shirts. But in the Bahamas, where your culture, I don't know if you'll have a shrinking culture. I think it'll be something for you to tell me about. But
If we have a what culture?
shrinking a culture that is dying, I would say. And
Oh yeah,
yeah, uh,
yeah. Yes and no. I think that not necessarily dying, but like some traditions are being lost. The culture's being watered down.
right,
Um, there's changes, and I think like that's just how culture and language and traditions are, right? Things get lost and they become a part of history. But I think for me, I wanna basically like to determine like what are the things that we are not willing to lose.
right.
And for me, that's our language,
That dialect,
right? Yeah, the dialect. Like that's something that I feel like should not be lost, but it is being lost. Like even to like compared to like how I did sound when I was a kid to now, like there's no comparison, right? Like I have lost my accent to some degree. I mean, unless I tell him one dead good story and like it is just, come out. Um, but it's just like the repetition of that, like eventually it is gonna be watered down to a certain degree. And that's a scary thing because it's like, who are we
right?
if we don't hold on to these traditions, if we don't hold on to our accents, if we don't hold on to like our foods, our music, like who are we? We just regular people with a nationality attached to us. Like, what does that mean to be Bahamian if we don't hold on to these traditions?
Cache, there might be a young person in this country, Turks and Caicos, listening to you, who's
Hmm.
feeling inspired by Is A Bahamian, your brand. What advice would you give to them? Because I look at you as a social activist, a
Hmm.
modern day social activist who's using social media to really keep the culture going. What would be your advice to that young person?
I think it would be asking yourself first and foremost, how can you serve? How can you serve Turks and Caicos? Like, how can like, I feel like we get in the habit of thinking about all the things that are wrong with a certain place and being like, what could I do to change it? And sometimes I know I used to feel like there's too much wrong with the world for like me to make a
Right.
difference. And for me, it's just like, okay, but what can I do in my community? No matter how small, no matter how big, like what can I do? Like I can't focus on everything that's wrong. I can't fix everything, but what can my contribution be? So I think one, first and foremost, figuring out how can you as an individual, what your skills are, what you do, where where you're passionate, how can you serve the people that surround you? Um, so that's something that I remember asking myself, like before I even started at Isa Bahamian Bay, how can I serve and impact the largest amount of people? Just me. Like no outside influence, no extra resources, no funding. It's just like, what could I do to serve the largest number of people that could have the greatest impact? And that's something that I always kept in the back of my head when I was sort of determining what I wanted to do as I get older. This fell in my lap, but I think that it fell in my lap because I was asking myself these questions and sort of like following this trail of like, okay, I'm looking for service, I'm looking for um, ministry essentially. And somebody recently called Is Bahamian Bay Ministry. Um, so how can you serve? And then what's your why? So like if you don't have your why or your reason for what you're doing, listen, it is be hard in these streets
So,
and you will quit. You will quit if you don't have your why or your reason for why you're doing something. So it can never be, it always has to be something that is greater and bigger than yourself. So like when I started Eyes of Bayman Bay, Eyes of Bayman Bay's always been bigger than myself. It's yeah.
yes.
So when I started, there were people or like different businesses that popped up that started doing the same similar thing to me. You know, like it's easy to post words on shirts. Like that's not something that's original. It's been done before. It's very easy to get a shirt and post, you know, a Bahamian word on it. And there were people or different businesses that would do the same thing. And I remember at the time I would get so flustered because I was just like, oh my gosh, like they doing Isa Bahamian Bay, like they doing it and I doing it, like, you know, what's the point? But I realized that like I don't do this to sell shirts, right? Like I don't do this to like make the most money. Like I do it literally for the culture and for like the Bahamian people. So it's just like where somebody might be getting into it because they want to have a popular like clothing or shirt brand or they want to make X amount of money. At some point when you hit a wall, that driving force is not going to be enough to sustain you continuing. But it's just like for me, when I hit a hump on in the road and like sales ain't looking good, that's not my measure of success. Like that's not the reason that I'm doing it. So I have I have the ability to keep sustaining myself to keep going because it's not based on how many shirts I'm selling. It's based on how much am I impacting the culture, how much am I influencing our ability to say Isa Bahamian Bay more proudly. So it's like that goal is there's not really a tangible like measure, but it's just like I have to keep going.
You know, Kasha, you mentioned other people from the Caribbean reaching out to you. You've been doing this for 6 years. At any stage of your journey, did you have this experience where it's like self actualize or self discovery? Like, has there been any sort of experience like that during this 6-year process?
Yeah, yes and no. Like it's not been one. I feel like self-discovery is like it's like this aha moment. Like I
Right,
feel like
that's
you
what I'm
think of
looking for.
self-discovery as
Yeah,
an aha moment,
yeah.
like in the movies where it's just like, oh my gosh, and one day I woke up and I was Kaché. No, like it doesn't work like that, right? I think the entire experience has been self-discovery. So it's really interesting. So like there's Isa Bahamian Bay and then there's Kaché Knowles. And so when I started this, like as I mentioned, I didn't plan for this to be anything other than like a Saturday hobby. So when it took off so fast, like basically overnight, it was just like popular and known, and everyone loved Isa Bahamian Bay. Kaché struggles
Okay.
because Kaché was still fresh out of college, don't really know what I doing, still trying to figure out like, you know, everything to do with like who I am. And so that has been honestly a journey. I feel like I wouldn't say I'm on the other side of it, but I think when you are when you are the founder and maker of something that's so big, but something became bigger faster than you personally had time to grow, the entire thing is self-discovery.
Mm.
The entire thing is challenging. The entire thing is figuring out how to serve how to serve Isa Bahamian Bay and Kaché Knowles at the same time.
Gotcha.
Because it's like sometimes, like for instance, the brand needed me to be more than I was able to give.
Okay.
Right? Where it's just like the brand needs me to be a boss girl out here, but it's just like, no, but I'm scared. So where does that leave me other than trying to find the balance of that? Where it's just like I have to give myself personal grace for maybe not necessarily being what Isa Bahamian Bay need, but also giving myself a pat on the back because I am also the person that created Isa Bahamian Bay. So it's like when the time comes, like I'll step into that role. So it's a serious balancing act. I feel like I could probably talk an hour. That's a really good question. I've never been asked that question before. I could talk an hour about just a self-discovery and like the walk with Kaché and Isa Bahamian Bay at the same time and what's that look like. Um, but it hasn't been one aha moment. It hasn't been one time where it's just like all of a sudden I'm a different person. Like I am not the same person that I started out as when I started this in 2019. But I know that I'm still not who I need to be to completely fulfill the full dream of Isa Bahamian Bay. So like there's still discovery and growth to come.
I think that means we're doing a follow-up interview in about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
By then, I hope to have a studio. So
Okay,
to be
we'll both follow up.
yeah, I hope both of our brands have grown to that next level. And talking
Hmm.
about the future, and for this segment, my final question would be, what is the vision for I as a Bahamian? What is the ultimate goal?
It's so many goals. I feel like education has always been a very big part of what I do and why I do it. So something towards the line of education. Merchandise, I love merchandise because I could create and use my like design and creativity to create things that people want to wear. But I think that people want to wear what I sell because of the education aspect of Isa Bahamian Bay. Um, so something towards education. However, I also, again, in the self-discovery, I've come to understand that Isa Bahamian Bay doesn't necessarily have to be a empire.
Okay.
It can also just be a mode of transportation to get me where I'm going, right? So perhaps Isa Bahamian Bay is just taking me to where I need to be to have further impact, to have bigger impact to my community, to serve at a greater degree. And that's the thing, that's a balancing act where it's just like I love Isa Bahamian Bay, but I also um, am learning what I want to do and learning like how I want to serve. So if Isa Bahamian Bay can grow and turn into the thing that I can use to serve the greatest amount of people, because again, that's always the thing that's in the back of my mind, then the world is my oyster. But if Isa Bahamian Bay is getting me to a point where it's just like, okay, time to get out of this vehicle and get into this vehicle to serve a greater amount of people, then that's just what it'll be. So I don't think that I think I'm becoming less in love with like what's the vision of Isa Bahamian Bay, and more so it's just like this is what I'm using to serve right now. Will it be the tool that I use to serve in the future? I don't know.
Wow.
But I think for me, Kaché, education, Bahamian culture, Bahamian language is my bread and butter. Isa Bahamian Bay is the tool that I'm using to facilitate that. In the next year or 2 years, I hope to continue that, but I don't know.
You know what
Whatever God wants for me.
I love now that I've asked the self-discovery question. I'm now hearing you I wasn't hearing it before, but I'm now hearing you talk about the two separate entities. You have Kaché and you have Isa Bahamian. So
Yeah.
I love that you're working towards both of those things and you're not just tying your whole identity into Isa Bahamian. I think that's great self-awareness.
Yeah, and that took years, right? Because like in the first 3 years, like they were the one and the same. So anytime somebody critiqued Isa Bahamian Bay, I personally was impacted. So it's taking time and experience to learn like that it's separate, like it's what happens at Isa Bahamian Bay is not Kaché. You don't know me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's taken so much time to like get there, which just like, yeah, no, like at the end of the day, like I have to serve myself because I'm the person, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's just like, but to everyone else, I miss Isa Bahamian Bay.
And it's a great lesson for entrepreneurs. Don't tie your own personal identity to your business.
No.
Whatever criticism that business receives, that's not tied to you. That's a hard lesson to learn when you think about it.
That is so challenging because I think like with entrepreneurs, we put ourselves in our service, in our business. So how can you not take it personally if someone says something about the thing that you literally given blood, sweat, and tears to, like it's really experience that I think you come to learn that like, it's just a business. It's just a brand.
Yes. Well, Kaché, I just want to thank you for the first segment of the show. And you wouldn't be a guest on Pushing Your Peers podcast if you didn't push your peers. So any word or words that begins with the letter P that has been transformational to your journey, you now had the chance to push your peers.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to give me 3 options okay.
Come up with it.
Okay, so I was on your website, like reading your bio and everything, and you had I think you had like 7 P's, and I was just like, okay, that one and that one. But now that I can pick my own, I'm still gonna pick 2 that you had on your website, and I'm gonna add a 3rd one.
Okay.
So the one that you had on your website was pace, and that's a really, really good one. So pace, you also had purpose on your website as well. And my 3rd one will be passion.
Can you talk about?
So I feel like that's my 3. So I think passion and purpose is sort of like one and the same. Like what I'm passionate about is what I do. But in my self-discovery, I realized that not necessarily the thing that I'm passionate about is my purpose. So like right now, I'm passionate about Bahamian culture. I'm passionate about growing Isa Bahamian Bay. Is Isa Bahamian Bay my purpose? I don't really know. I feel like my purpose is to serve. So it's just like, in whatever regard I'm called to serve. If it aligns with my passion, if it aligns with who I am, I will serve in my purpose. Now, pace is a really, really good one because pace is not my strong suit. If I could have gotten to year 10 of Is A Bahamian Bay in year 1, I would have, because like we all want to just be where we want to be as fast as we possibly can. So pace is something I had to learn. Patience is something I got all the P's. I got all the P's.
Man, you've been pushing.
Pace is something I had to learn. Patience is something that I had to learn. And I recently journaled that for my start at Isa Bahamian Bay in year 1, God gave me the entire, this is how it's going to look. This is what you're going to do. This is where you're going to be. He gave me the end product. Now, and I feel like people have spoken on this before. In my head, along this 6-year journey, because I have the end product in mind, I trying to get there, want as fast as I can. I'm impatient about how slow it's taken, but also on the path, there's the next P, on the path
Killing it.
that I literally want to take it. So it's like, this is the end product, but this is the picture in my head of how I should get there. That is not how it works. That is not how it works. So like, I feel like the end product is like the purpose. The thing that's sustaining me is the passion. The thing that I'm walking on is the path. The thing that I need is patience and to pace myself because I be trying to fly through it. But I've learned that like what I think it should look like in my head to get to that path and that purpose is not the thing. It's not the, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Nah, you killed it. I love how you tied everything in. That's beautiful. It sounds like you've been reading my book. That's what it sounds like. I
No.
did that at the end of my chapters. That I tied all the P's in because
Oh wow.
everything is connected. All the P's are, and you
But
did it.
interesting.
And you did it excellently.
So it's interesting that you say that because I feel like the way that you said all the pieces are connected, I feel like we as individuals are connected. So I feel like something that I've learned is that an idea that I think is unique to me, I feel like God gives it to many different people. And it's just like, no matter what you do or don't do, his will is going to happen because he's given it to multiple people. And that's why a lot of times, if you ever had a really good idea that you sat on, and in a month you see someone doing that exact same idea, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I thought of that, is because the will is going to happen.
Yes.
And I feel like you just connected with the same, like, sort of stream of consciousness and ideas. It's just a matter of, like, how do you use yourself to serve?
Powerful. Now we have 2 more questions before we show up. One is a spin-off question that I will ask after this question here.
Okay.
So you have Kaché, young Kaché, first few months into Isa Bahamian. What advice would you give her? First few months. This is when she's just starting.
First few months.
One piece of advice.
Enjoy it.
Okay.
Enjoy it. Don't try to rush. Because, like, I was thinking, like, okay, what advice would I tell my back in the day self to be like, don't do this or do this? Or, like, I feel like where I am, it's just like everything had to happen to get where I am. And I feel like I'm in a pretty good place. Might cry tonight, but I don't know. So I think the only thing could just be like, babe, don't rush. Like, generally just enjoy it. And I feel like, because it's going to happen.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at now, where it's just like, I don't have to pressure myself. There's another P. I don't have to like keep overperforming. I'm here for the P's. I don't have to keep overperforming. I don't have to keep like, I don't know, like I think we live in this like, this persistent like hustle
Yes.
world where it's just like society says you need to be this, 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 and this. And I think that like that pace that I had in year one was just like I just trying to get to year 10. Like I think I would have enjoyed it more and just been and knowing that like to sit in my faith and just be like, "Babe, it's already written. It's literally in the book. It's gonna happen." Like you don't have to like create so much resistance because I feel like I got in my own way a lot. I cost myself tears because it's like I try to force year 10 and year one, not possible. So I think I would have enjoyed it more and basked in it more and like just been like, Motto, like, yeah, you did that.
Like have some fun with it.
Yeah.
For sure. Kaché, final question.
Okay.
Spin-off question.
Okay.
Describe your perfect sandwich. But
My perfect what?
sandwich. Right? Listen, we ain't finished.
Okay.
Describe your perfect sandwich. But every ingredient has to be something you've never actually put in a sandwich.
What in the world? Every ingredient had to be what I put in those sandwich.
That's
See my
it.
accent coming out now. What you talking about?
Yes, yes. Let me see how creative you are.
Make a sandwich and every ingredient had to be what I ain't put in a sandwich. Why would I even want that? Pass. There's another P for you. Pass.
Oh, I think she
Oh.
froze. She's still up.
See, I all for like I'm not a picky eater,
Okay.
but I don't know like what I want in a sandwich that I ain't had before because I could come up with a very non-traditional sandwich
Go right
that I've
ahead.
had before,
That's the whole idea of this, no? Let's do it.
but like it's what I've had.
Oh, no, you can't. No, it can't be what you had.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Okay, Kaché, just like try and think. What is your meat? What is the meat that you want in a sandwich? This is stressing me out. I don't think that I came to push and pee.
Ready for this spin-off question?
Me
Always do
stressed
this, by the way.
out.
Don't feel no way. This is always a wild question.
Cause it's like, okay, what's yours? How about that?
Me, I think if I had to do like a weird sandwich,
Hmm.
jalapeno peppers, I would put probably goat because I've never, or oxtail, one of those meats.
Okay.
I think that would be a fire set. Some pepper, oxtails, some goat cheese. Like I feel like that would be fire, in my opinion.
Okay. I see what you're doing here. See, and the thing is I haven't had oxtail, but I've had goat cheese on a sandwich and jalapeno. I probably have had everything on a sandwich. Okay, I think that I would do lamb.
Okay.
I would do some lamb with some Lord of mercy. I would do some lamb, right? And then I would put some cranberries. So the lamb is like cooked, like it's like lamb chop, but it cooked it herby. You got a lot of herbs in it. And you chop it up. I'm a foodie too. You chop it up and you put it on some bread because you gotta have bread with a sandwich.
Mhm.
Put on the bread. I'm gonna put some cranberry. I've had goat cheese on a sandwich before, but I'm gonna do some goat cheese.
No problem.
I'm also gonna put some pesto. I've had that as well. I'm making my sandwich.
Go ahead.
Even though I've not had it before. I've had this before.
And that's it.
No, and then everything else, like I need some lettuce because you gotta have some crunch. I've had lettuce. I'm not doing the assignment. I'm actually not.
Yeah.
I'm not following the rules, and that's okay.
I'll take it. And that's it. That's your perfect sandwich right there.
No, that ain't my perfect sandwich. You stressed me into that sandwich.
It sounds good. I've never had a lamb sandwich, so I feel like that would be fire.
It definitely will be good
Yeah.
for sure.
I feel like, all right. Well, I'll take it. Order
Thank
me
you.
a slice of your sandwich. But Kaché,
Mom
I
sandwich.
just want to thank you for being a guest on Pushing Your Beats podcast. You've dropped so many gems, so many snippets that can be replayed on social media. I would now give you an opportunity to plug your business in and
Mhm.
also leave the audience with a piece of advice.
So my business is Isa Bahamian Bay. So IISA Bahamian and then BEY. That's also my website. That's everything. And then a piece of advice for the audience. I think just be yourself. Like I feel like you people like to be who they see is in successful lanes, but I feel like everyone has something within them that will bring them some degree of success based on what they're doing if they're authentic and honest with themselves about what they're doing. Um, and generally like passionate about it. Like don't try force things. Like just be yourself. Um, be honest, be authentic, because the people that you're trying to reach will be able to see whether or not you are being authentic. And I feel like that's being yourself is a superpower.
Boom. Amazing. Ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, Kaché Knowles, founder and creator of Is A Bahamian Boy.
Isa Bahamian Bay.
Bay.
Yeah.
Said the right way. Is A Bahamian
Isa
Boy.
Bahamian Bay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Social activist and amazing content creator. I must say, really enjoy her graphics. Thank you so much for pushing your beers and coming on the show. And we'll see you next week on Pushing Your Beers podcast.